Hey YouTube, it's your girl Dr. J, the Midlife Writer, and I decided to go ahead and tackle this topic pretty early in my YouTube career with this particular channel. And that is one of, is there racism in South Korea? And the reason why I decided to take on this topic at this time is because when I was looking at moving and when I knew we were going to be moving to South Korea, it was something that was definitely on my mind. And I looked at every video that I could find on the topic. And I started to see some trends in what I was seeing from Black people who were talking about their experiences in South Korea. And I wanted to kind of add my voice to the mix because there was a perspective that I did not see a lot of, and that was people talking about their experiences from that as a person who's in the midlife. And so, of course, I'm a midlife writer, and so that is the lens through which I'm going to be reviewing some of the things that I experience here in South Korea. And so, as with all my videos that you'll see, I am really big on language. And so one of the things that I want to do here early is start to kind of define our terms, right? And so one of the things that I want to do in defining terms is to really talk about it from the perspective of, I personally distinguish racism, bigotry, and bias. And so very loosely, the way that I'm looking at racism is a person intentionally causing harm to the health, safety, and well-being of another person, and that's pretty much sanctioned by the community in which they live. Basically, people are going to do whatever they want to do without any fear of consequences. So that's what I look at when I see racism. When I see bigotry, that's where people, they might not be a fan of another group of people, but they're not going to actually go out of their way to cause hurt, harm, or danger. If the opportunity came up and they thought they could get away with it, they would, but they're not out there looking for an opportunity to hurt or harm others. And then bias. And bias is one where I look at it from the perspective of, you're not really going out to hurt or harm another person, but you're not looking out for them either. You're not intentionally trying to interact or engage. And if you had a choice to interact and engage, you would pass. But you're not really trying to go out there and make people feel uncomfortable. You just choose not to engage. And anytime you do have a choice to not to engage, you're going to take that choice. And so that's what I'm looking at when I'm talking about racism versus bigotry versus bias. None of those things are necessarily good and good for building community or interacting or providing a safe space, but there are very significant differences to the impact those various things will have. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, long story short, let me just get straight to the chase. I will give you my answer and then I'll explain why that is my answer. So, number one, do I feel like there is racism, or I have experienced racism since I've been in South Korea? My answer to that is no. Do I feel like I have experienced bigotry since I've been in South Korea? My answer to that is again going to be no, but a little bit less enthusiastically, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Have I experienced bias since I've been here in South Korea? I'm going to say probably, but I'm not sure that I caught it enough so that it would ruin my day, so that it would impact my day at all. And the reason why I think my answer on experiencing racism, bigotry, and bias in South Korea might be different than other Black people, particularly Black Americans, who may have different answers, I think it's grounded in that midlife experience. So I took some notes, I put them on my phone. So when you see me looking down, you're going to see me looking down because I'm looking at my notes, because I really wanted to get this right, because I think it matters. And because this is a really important conversation, and I think it's going to really impact how people, if people do choose to move abroad, particularly to South Korea, how they're going to go into that interaction. I'm also doing this video intentionally when I haven't been here that long because I want to revisit this topic as I'm here longer because my answers might change in various ways. They might change for the better, they might change for the worse. But you'll understand why that will matter, how long I've been here, as I start to go through my list. So when I look down, it's because I want to get this right. So here we go. Why don't I feel like I've experienced racism or bigotry and really can't say for sure that I've experienced bias here in South Korea where other people may have had those experiences. Number one, I came with my husband and older teenagers. Why that matters? That matters because I came with the support system. And so when I'm out and about, I'm not often just out and about by myself. And I always have somebody to talk to. I always have somebody to do things with. I always have somebody I can communicate with readily. And I'm having a very shared experience with people I'm very close to. So that can be very different than people who are moving to South Korea solo. And even if they're moving to South Korea and they have younger children, then it might be a very different experience for them. But my kids being older teenagers, I've said my oldest is actually a college student and my other two are rising seniors. So they're seniors in high school. And so we have a different sort of experience. We're all kind of experiencing things together. We're still a little bit in that tourist phase, even though we live here and we're going to be living here for quite a long time. But I came with my support system. And so I don't have as much of that kind of loneliness that I think can impact it. And so there's less control over, people have less control over my feelings because I have a built-in support system where, you know, if people reject me, I don't even see it because I'm not trying to get with people like that because I already have my folks I'm hanging out with, right? So that's number one. I came with a support system. And so that's going to really impact your decision. So a lot of some midlife people that I see moving abroad, they are moving abroad with a spouse or significant other, or they might have older children. And so that might impact your experience, how you experience things, and what you see and what it feels like when you encounter those things. Number two, the majority of time I'm interacting as a customer. I think this is really key because when I interact with South Koreans, I don't work for the South Korean system. You know, so basically, I'm not employed by anyone in South Korea. And so when I'm interacting with South Koreans, right now, I am interacting most often as a customer or just somebody in a shared space. And so when people want your money, they're nicer to you, right? And so that could definitely be the reason why I'm not experiencing things that other people may experience, where if you came over as an employee and there are people who have authority over you, right? When you have that authority, that's when you can start feeling you feel the hurt of somebody's bigotry. You feel the hurt of somebody's racism when they get to mess with your money. So that's probably why I haven't had that experience. And so if you're looking at coming over here as a midlife, you know, later in your career or as a retiree, you might have a different experience than somebody who came over here as an employee. And they are employed by people in South Korea. I'm not financially constrained by being linked to South Korea. So that goes again with that. My money doesn't come from being a part of the South Korean economy. And so again, there's less impact that somebody's bigotry or bias might have on me. And that's possibly why I'm not as sensitive to it, because they're not in my pocket. I don't speak the language. I know very little Korean. I am in the process of studying Korean. They're very dedicated to learning the language, but right now I'm very early in learning the language. So I have no idea if people are saying mean things to me or mean things about me. And so again, that naivete might be why I'm just so blissfully happy right now. And so that's why I'm going to continue to revisit this topic as I've been here longer, because the longer I'm here, the more I know the language. But right now, when I'm on the subway, child, I don't know what nobody's saying. So if I'm on a train, or if I'm in a taxi, or if I'm on a bus, or if I'm walking through through a market or through the mall, and people are having conversations, I do not even know if they're talking about me. And so it could be just naivete. But I want to be upfront and honest about it. That ignorance is bliss, at least right now. So here's a big one that I think really impacts whether or not you will feel the pressure or the sting of even being concerned about bigotry and bias. You always need to be concerned about racism, but like I said, I haven't experienced it. And that's because of where I came from in the United States. So I came from the South. So I moved here from the South. And so the South right now, it's 2023, there's a lot happening, and it is not really the safest space in a lot of places to be Black. And so when you have come from a place like that, from an atmosphere like that, um, the desire to not be hunted or harmed is overwhelming. And so for me, being ignored is an upgrade. Like that makes me feel good. Like if I walk into a space and nobody's looking at me and nobody's acknowledging my existence, that is a sigh of relief, because that is an upgrade from being followed around spaces, being glared at, having people trying to engage with you, being scared for my kids and whether or not my kids, I have 2 sons and a daughter, and so being scared on, okay, if my sons go out, are they going to come back? Is somebody going to try to engage with them? Are they going to have a bad interaction? Like that's not something that I think about. My kids have talked about, man, they just have peace. Um, so, okay, if you came here from, maybe New York or LA, or a place that was much more diverse, a place where you maybe didn't experience that outright in your face and they not mad about it, racism and bigotry, then you may be more sensitive to that more subtle racism and bigotry. But for me, even if I'm experiencing subtle bigotry, it's an upgrade, because I came from a space where I was experiencing downright in your face, won't be mad about it. And when I say downright in your face, I'm saying I've had to leave spaces with my children because people that were active members of the Klan were invited into those spaces. So when that's been my lived experience, not an exaggeration, not making stuff up, literally happened, when that's been my experience, folks just not trying to be bothered with me, people just don't want to deal with me, that makes me feel good. That makes me feel safe. Being ignored is significantly better than being hunted. And so that is, again, why I may be experiencing my time in Korea differently than somebody who maybe came from a space where you weren't actively fearing for your safety everywhere you went. So take that as you will. I have entered the phase of drink water and mind my business part of life. Okay. And so, drink water. So there's a song. I love it. It goes, drink water and mind my business. Right. And so that basically is where I'm just doing me. I'm not worried about other people. And I can do that because, again, I came with my spouse. So I don't care if people, I don't care. I literally don't care if people find me attractive. I literally don't care if people think I'm ugly. Like, that doesn't bother me. Like, I'm good. We about to celebrate 20 years. We're good. I don't care if people are, thinking like lowly of me. I came here with a PhD. I came here with my career intact. I came here, with so many things where it's like how people feel about me here has very little impact on me as an individual because of when I came and where I was in my life when I came. And I think that again can impact it, where if you are kind of starting out, if you're younger and you're just starting out, then how other people feel about you is going to have a much larger impact. And so that's a piece of it. But I did want to, again, have that different perspective out there. So experiencing and evaluating from a finishing rather than starting perspective. Again, my husband and I, we're retiring within the next 10 years. And so we are at the end of that particular phase in life as opposed to being at the start of it. And so you can not care a lot more when you're older than when you're younger, because people have way less opportunity to mess with your life in a negative way. And so I do understand that is a privilege, but I did want to put that out there, where if you are coming into this space and you are 28 as opposed to 48, like I am, or 58 or 68, you're going to have different experiences because there's going to be different things in life. And the other thing is that a lot of people, like I don't dye my hair, so you're starting to see the gray in my hair and all that kind of stuff. And I got my hair done here in Korea by a Korean. Just want to say that. But I'm going gray, and Korea is a place where they do have a respect for elders, and so again, I think that may be influencing it as well, because there's these competing things where it's like, okay, you might not like Black people, but you are also in a space where you respect people that are older. So it's like, okay, respect my elders. Okay, well, I'm looking more and more like an elder every day. And so that may be it as well, where it's that being older could be outweighing maybe some bigotry or some bias, because it's like, well, she Black, but she old. And so I don't want to take that off the table as well. And so again, that may have you have a different experience if you come midlife or later. And me prioritizing safety and affordability. I was ready to be treated differently, and that's like ignored, because right now what I can prioritize is my safety and things being affordable so I can live a long, healthy life and be able to experience stuff, as opposed to I am not in a space where it's like, hey, I'm looking to find a partner. I want to get married and have kids one day. So yeah, it's safe and yes, affordable. But if nobody is going to take dating me seriously, or date me as something other than, I have to be concerned about being a fetish, right? So then that is going to have a different sort of impact on how you feel about things. And so I am at that stage in life where I can prioritize things differently. I'm prioritizing my safety and affordability. And even my kids may have a different experience, right? My kids, my eldest is in college in the States. My other two, they're going to be applying to colleges in the States. They might apply to a college here in South Korea. So again, I know, but their emphasis is back in the States, right? So I know that there is a difference of opinion and experience depending on where you are in life. Because even though my kids love it here, absolutely love it, and feel safe and well protected, it's not like they're saying, I'm never going back to the US. That's not what they're saying. And so I do think that that's important, but that's why I wanted to make this video for people who are at more my stage in life, that midlife, getting ready for retirement. You might have a very different experience in South Korea than someone who came here as, in their 20s as an English teacher, and they're living off the Korean economy, as opposed to you who will be coming here in a very different stage of life. Having access to spaces that have other Black people. So where I am in Korea, it is a space that does have some Americans here and Black Americans here. And so I don't live in a space that's isolated. Like, for instance, some people that have come here, I see their videos, they've come here to teach English. they may be in a space where there's no other Black people around them, right? They don't encounter other Black people. I literally have a neighbor across the street from me who is another Black American woman. Her daughter, who is a college freshman, um, live across the street from us. We talk, we chat. So, I when I go to spaces, I rarely am in a space where I don't see another Black space face anywhere. And that's not just on the consumer side. Like, I went into there's a wonderful Korean barbecue restaurant that's not too far from our house. And we went there, and there was a Black individual. I don't know if she was from the United States. Her accent seemed like she might be from the United States, but she also spoke fluent Korean. She was working at the restaurant. So, and when I'm going into spaces, I see other Black faces. There are rarely do I go out of my home, and if I'm out for any amount of time, I haven't seen any Black person. Now, I'm not saying that we're 5, 10, 20% of the population. Still might be only 1 or 2% of the population that I'm experiencing, but I still don't feel that isolation, right? I'm in a space where Juneteenth was acknowledged and celebrated. Okay, so that again is different. South Korea is a very big country, and so not everybody is going to be in the same space. And so that is something that you probably want to take into consideration. There are some parts of South Korea that have different population makeups. And so there's not just one space that you have to be in when you come to South Korea. So that's something to keep in mind too. Again, if you're coming as a midlifer where you can bring your job with you, or you're coming as a retiree where your money is already set, you have an opportunity to find spaces that will be less isolating, as opposed to just having to go where the job is. So that's another thing to keep in mind. And then the last one that I'll talk about is that when I'm looking at retiring again within the next 10 years, maybe 12, I know I came here to judge this space and see if this space will be a good retirement area for me. And I look at that from the perspective of, I'm just looking for some place to be my base. And so when I come, like here in South Korea, like we're not just going to be here. We're going to be traveling all around the Pacific. And so that means that I'm not going to be rooted here where my life will be here. And again, that's the difference between coming and being on the economy, where this is your job and you just get, 10 days of vacation, or if you are closer to retirement, where you have months of vacation. And so it's like, okay, yeah, I might be based in South Korea, but I'm going to be, going to Japan, to Taiwan, to Thailand, to, all these other sort of spaces. Also flying over to Europe and visiting different places in Europe and going back to my home, the USA, whenever I feel like it, or when there's family events or anything like that. So it's like, this is just going to be a base. And so that's another kind of difference where I'm looking at it from the perspective of, I'm not stuck here. It's just that, can I have clean water? Can I have can I have a safe place to be? Is it affordable? And can I have a home base that is affordable and will allow me to travel around to different places throughout the world and live the life that I want to live? That is a very different mindset to come into a space than, again, to be living off that economy, to be working, going to work in a job every day, and the only time you can travel is when you go on vacation or on your long weekends or something like that. So that is why I think that there is a difference in looking at things and going, is there racism? Is there bigotry? Is there bias when you are younger versus when you are older? And so if I had not come to South Korea at this time and stage in my life, would I probably have a different perspective on South Korea? The answer is a resounding yes. However, I do want to make sure that there's voices out there for people who are in that midlife stage and to say, hey, take another look at this space, because you may experience it very differently than a lot of people who maybe you have heard their videos. And it's nothing against them, because like I said, if I was 20 26, 27, 28, if I was single and I wanted a family, if I didn't come here with my family intact, if I didn't come here with my spouse of we about to be 20 years, would my experience be different? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I do think that that diversity of experience that Black people are having is important to share because Black people are not a monolith. Our experiences are not a monolith, and our stages in life are not a monolith. And I'm just giving you a perspective of a Black person who is in South Korea right now and who is saying with confidence very early in the journey that it feels safe, it feels good. I have not been overburdened with experiencing racism or bigotry or even bias. Like I said, I will update this video as I'm here longer, as I learn more of the language, because people might just be talking bad about me and I don't know it. But for right now, I would say the experience is good. We're happy. And again, this is just one Black person's individual experience, but I did want to share it because I think it's a little bit unique from some of the other experiences that I've seen and learned a lot from. Learned a whole lot from. So I'm not throwing shade at anybody because y'all people who have been making videos on South Korea, you've been holding it down. And maybe my experience of not feeling like I'm encountering racism, bigotry, and bias is because you laid a good foundation and let me know what to expect. And so I may have just lowered my expectations of friendliness and people and stuff like that because I watched your videos. And so your videos have been helpful to me as well. So I am not discounting your experience because like I said, if I was on the South Korean economy and how people felt about me as a Black woman would determine how good I got to eat, or if I got to eat, or if I got to stay in my job, or how they were evaluating me, I might have a very different experience. And like I said, if I wasn't coming from the South, where it felt like my life and the life of my children was in danger constantly, being ignored might be offensive. But right now, being ignored feels safe. And I'm not, and I don't even say like I'm not always ignored. And I don't know if it's because I'm older that people engage with me more, but I have people engage with me, often when I'm in spaces and, they're wanting to talk to me and they're trying to talk to me. No one has touched my hair. So let me put that out there. So it is not that sort of experience. Nobody's coming up to me and started patting me on the head or touch my hair or anything like that. But I also know that people do ask you your job. And so it's very different when you are a professor, and that's been your background, and a university professor, and you are a published author, and your spouse is also, has a different, professional position, and, being in different spaces like that. So those things do matter. So, but I do want to make sure that I put this perspective out there because it is my lived experience. But everybody else is saying their lived experiences as well. They are not wrong. They are not lying. We are just having different experiences, and some of it is interpretation, some of it is because of where we are in life. And so I wanted to just add more to the conversation. So shout out to the people who have been doing these videos along the way. Your voices are important, they are helpful. And because my experience may be a little bit different, that doesn't mean that I don't believe you. I believe you 100%. I just wanted to make sure that I put this perspective out there as well for people who might be looking at coming to South Korea, and you are in your midlife. So your midlife experience has a very good potential of being very different from someone who is a little bit earlier in their journey. So I hope that helps. This is Dr. J, the Midlife Writer. Bye-bye.